Welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast that's all about real conversations for real transformation. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, professional speaker, MC, and best-selling international author. Here, we tackle the tough stuff, the mud that we all have found ourselves in. We talk about the pivots, the challenges, and the victories that shape our lives and our businesses. From overcoming trauma and finding your voice to navigating life's unexpected twists, we get raw, honest, and open. You'll hear from inspiring guests who share their stories of resilience, healing, and growth. Whether it's breaking through emotional abuse, embracing self-worth, or thriving in entrepreneurship, you'll find connection, empowerment, and the tools to keep you moving forward. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for stories that hit home and conversations that make a difference. Let's get real together. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here with me today, and oh, are we going to dive deep and learn some stuff today? I am so excited about this. Mary is absolutely amazing, so thank you, Mary, so much for being a part of the podcast today.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be here too.
Oh, this is going to be wonderful. I feel like I learned so much on our first call as well. And so I'm so excited to dive into this and like give other people the ability to understand not only that healing is important, right? We're starting to hear that, but all of the different ways, modalities, and things that you can do that, yes, might be considered non-traditional, at least in
Mhm.
our area, but at the same time have so much weight when it comes to doing something outside of the norm, because unfortunately, a lot of what's considered normal isn't really meshing with everyone, right? And
Mhm.
so, anyway, I'm so excited to talk about this. So, please do us all a favor, then, Mary, and tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
So again, thank you. It's lovely to be here and in front of your people that obviously love you and love listening to you. So I'm honored. I'm really honored to be here. So thank you.
Thank you.
If you've ever felt that, the conventional narratives of what's going on with you, your body, this time period in your life, then I have, some deep and extensive training on how to view the body, mental, emotionally, spiritually in a much bigger context. So I own a company called How We Heal, and my background is almost a couple decades now of Chinese medicine. And Chinese medicine, most people, I think we were talking just a little bit earlier, that when they think of that, they think of acupuncture, if they think of it at all.
Yep.
And 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 certainly that is part of it. But Chinese medicine actually is a much bigger, expansive view of a human. It doesn't even actually have to be human, a living being, because there's plenty of animal medicine using Chinese medicine. But for our conversation, is Chinese medicine, the training and the art of it is actually looking at a human being and what they're going through at a particular time, very nuanced with what's going on, what symptoms are they having, and what season that they're having it in, what time of year they're having it in, what time is it when we have this conversation, are all playing actually into um, the what I would recommend for a solution for you. So that is my background training, and I've done some apprenticeships with some book authors about grief, death, and dying. I have done lots of training to help basically create a bigger conversation about what's going on with your body. But my primary message for everybody, that all of your body symptoms are wisdom, and there's absolutely no exception to that.
Ooh. Oh, I love that. What an
That might be
interesting way to
controversial, but
What an
but I
interesting way to think about that, though.
yeah.
And you're not the first person to be on the podcast that has stated that, a lot of times when we get physical ailments or we have what a lot of people call dis-ease, it is because of our body screaming to tell us something, which, I mean, if you think about it, it is a wisdom. It's something for us to pay attention to
Yeah.
decide if we want to learn about it so we can heal from it, which ultimately can make that ailment go away. And I'm not talking crazy, people. I actually had a hip issue for years and found out that a lot of it was actually connected with the abuse that I went through and a lot of the stress and the things that I hadn't healed from it. And I know that there is a book, and I cannot remember it. Somebody has told me about it before that actually can give you some breakdowns of where different parts of the body hold certain things. I mean, we've heard, right, that our
Hmm.
shoulders and our neck tend to hold stress and
Yep.
things like that. But I thought that was really fascinating when I
I think you
thought
might
of,
be, yeah, this Louise Hayes. I remember she was kind of the original person that way back years and years ago I had heard about, that she talks a lot about wherever your symptom is has something, has like a meta, has like a bigger thing that it's pointing to. And so yes, you're absolutely right that that's her and several other people's message, and it's right in alignment with certainly my training. Except, Chinese medicine is hugely, it's actually one of the bigger sciences out there, although Western, society probably doesn't think of it like that.
mhm.
It feels more esoteric, but Chinese medicine has been around for thousands of years. So it's still here, and it's still making a difference in a lot of people's lives. And I'll say again, beyond acupuncture, beyond the needles, it's not just about acupuncture, it's about the holistic view of how whatever's showing up in your body is pointing to something's out of alignment.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I have to say that with all the technology and all the crazy things that we come up now and all the pills that are supposed to solve all your problems so we can get over it quick, I think I will take the thousands of years of something that's been working when
Yeah.
it comes to thinking outside the box. Just saying. At least that's my perspective now because I have been opened up to a world of seeing things that people have been using for so many generations, for millennia, because
Yeah,
it was the old way that things were done. And a lot of it still proves true. And to me, I'm like,
absolutely.
you know what? Yes, it is more work because you have to go inward. You have to deal with yourself. You have to, address certain things. It also causes you to be very present in your life,
Hmm.
which is not necessarily anything that we're taught nowadays. But it is so much more freeing in that space than knowing that I'm putting a pill in my body that is putting a band-aid on it or masking it to the point to
Yeah,
where that band-aid rips off and you're like, great, now we need a bigger band-aid. So let's go up and, and I'm not saying that
exactly.
medicine does not have a place. I know that medicine
Sure.
has a place for a lot of things. But I do think that we have kind of turned to a society where the quicker we can fix the problem to get an immediate result so we can get back into doing, we're more apt to do that than like actually saying, okay, I think that I may need to change something. Let's focus on that. And I get it because
Yeah.
we're always busy, we're always going, we don't have time to sleep, we don't have time
And
to.
the two can be done simultaneous, right? I mean, I had an acupuncture clinic, and I still have very, very, very tiny. I've shrunk it down quite a bit, but you can do modern medicine with Chinese medicine at the same time. One is, like you said, more of a band-aid approach. I would say that Western medicine's uh, design is actually for urgent medicine. It's not great at what's the real root of what's going on. And since humans over time have kind of been whittled down to symptom equals, uh, pain medication or whatever type of medication, surgery,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not really so, like, we don't fault the system for not doing what we're probably um, what we'd like it to do, because Western medicine isn't designed to be a root. They may think of what they're doing is the root, but if you look at the older medicines that have existed for so long, such, I mean, Chinese medicine is not the only one, but it's one of the biggest
Mm-hmm.
that's been around for the longest, and the efficacy is there, the data is there for lots of diseases and illnesses or chronic issues. But you know, the being able to look at your what you're going on holistically is not in the what do they call it, like the wheelhouse of Western medicine. And it's that's just, to me, that's just a fact. It's not bad,
Mhm.
it's not good, because certainly if you're just broken your arm or you're in a car crash, go to the hospital. But if you've got
Yeah.
something else that keeps reoccurring, even allergies. I mean, I used to be riddled with allergies. I've had clients that are no longer allergies. And even they weren't even acupuncture clients. We resolved their allergy issues by a conversation about when it started, how long it's been going on. And there's usually, I'll say it again, a misalignment. So the body's waking you up in a very particular way, um, according to what, I don't know, your body thinks this, if you, these symptoms, like you need to wake up to what you're doing.
Yeah.
um, Everybody's symptoms are different. And that's why having a medicine or training that's particularly nuanced to, to really asking a lot of questions about what is going on, what is like that these symptoms were arising, and could it be connected to something going else going on in your life, because there is no difference between mind, body, spirit. All of it's, my original teacher used to say, it's a hologram, it's all a
Mm,
mirror. So we could really start with anything, the smallest symptom to the one of like chronic. Certainly there's a lot to unpack,
yeah.
but uh my methodology helps to kind of get in there, kind of like a needle, quickly, to move the energy in the direction of healing. Because a lot of, in Qigong, for example, part of my methodology is to introduce Qigong or Qigong healing. So you're either doing very gentle, easy movements, but they're very, don't mistake ever simple for not powerful, right? Because there's
Okay.
probably some things in your life you've probably done that, well, it's pretty straightforward, but they were really
Oh,
powerful
yeah.
experiences, right? So, you know, even practicing Qigong to um, open, right? If you think of pain or discomfort or something's tight, not moving. And so in a medicine like Qigong, or some people might do Tai Chi or whatever, these
Mm-hmm.
old movement medicines, it's being able to move your own chi with the guidance of a teacher like myself, to have your body open in a way, even if you can get it to move just a little bit, and it might go back because you have more practice tightening, right, than you do opening. So essentially, if we were to totally oversimplify it, but a lot of why people get sick is we're closing down in a way. And your body needs to be open and moving. But I don't mean frenetic moving like a lot of us Westerners do. We move without thinking,
Yeah.
and we end up like injuring ourselves. But it's this conscious way of moving in the world that has you open to life.
Mm. Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's so funny too, because I've actually thought about Tai Chi. I just think it's really, really interesting. And I've had like this knack of like, maybe one day this might be one of those things. Like, I don't know. I love it.
Yeah.
And I was like that for a really long time. Like you were talking about tightening. Oh, let me tell you. And I worked in the medical field. I mean, when I worked for a chiropractor as well. And I
Mm,
remember just like being so tense with everything. And now it's very, very different. And I enjoy like the yoga poses and the slow movement and the breathing. Like there's something that's very peaceful about that. And I think that's because
mm-hmm.
I was in such a state of
Yep.
go, go, go all the time that let me tell you, people, when you can get into a state of just like peace by breathing and stretching, it is the most amazing thing. And 10 minutes will feel like an hour's worth of work. It is crazy how the
Yeah. I
time
mean,
goes.
and so it sounds like when you were, doing that, like again, I think the most simple things are actually the most powerful, right? Because when you were like, all right, just let me breathe here. And I'm sure your listeners and viewers can remember a time where they're like, you know what? If I keep going at this pace, I, the ripple effect is not going to be pretty in my body or in the bodies of other people around me. So we just took a moment, like if everybody right now listening to this could you actually just notice that you're breathing? So I'm noticing that I'm breathing, when I just notice I'm breathing, I actually can feel something just kind of settled in me. Like I can now feel the chair much easily underneath me. It's like, oh yeah, there's a chair here. So why that's important is because all healing happens moment to moment. It's not in the future. It's certainly not in the past. And so when we're not in the present moment, it's actually harder to shift what's going on with you. And
Mm.
it might be like, I don't want to deal with this situation or whatever. It's like, okay, like, but you probably have precedent in life with having dealt with difficult conversations or situations. So it's remembering, what I do is kind of activate your remembering of, oh, I can be with this moment,
Mm.
and that actually allows the body to come present, where you kind of feel into your body. That allows you to open and relax. And now you're more than, you know, chi is energy. Chi is actually technically, from my schooling, information. So when you
Interesting.
allow your body to relax, you're now open to new, we could call it possibilities, new information about, oh, I have a, creative now idea that, because I just was able to relax in the moment, now I have a new idea, right? Or I have, or I'm noticing my back doesn't hurt when I intentionally relax, or I bring my shoulders down, right? So that's what I mean by, your comment about breathing. It's so powerful to recognize your breath. And then if you wanted to do a couple of deep breaths, right, to do that too. And but I tell you, it's no small thing to do that, if because we don't have insight, like, I don't have a scan next to me, like
Mm.
checking like my biometrics. I don't wear watches and stuff. It's like I just notice when I feel tension, I'm not present.
Mm.
I'm worried or I'm anxious, right? And that's normal and common. And we're not, I can't teach that out of people at all. But what I can teach you is to use the tension to get back to presence through, my wisdom within method is like my methodology, but it's based on Chinese medicine. It's based on my mentors, Jay Duggan, who created a humaning uh, you know, well process that I walk people through. It's based in Qigong science. So all three of them together is what I teach humans, particularly, lately, uh, women in midlife or approaching midlife that are kicking and screaming because the body, you know, all bodies change every day. You're
Oh yeah.
losing skin cells. You're getting renewed, even though you can't see it or watch it necessarily happening on real time. But it's unfortunate that our culture didn't actually go, hey, as you change from when you're little, you're going to go through different seasons or cycles, as every human does, and women in particular. We go through these seasons and cycle, and they're demonized. Actually, they're not thought of something as something to go, I'm stepping into something, a new period in my, literally a new period in my life, when we're adolescents. And then we have, if
Very
we decide
true.
to have children, there's another season and cycle, right? May get a little bit more support for that. But then in this perimenopause, it's actually a beautiful time. It's like saying, who are you without all those hormones running the show?
Ooh.
Because it's really important that you actually think about it that way, I say, because you can still, like we said earlier, you can still take HRT, the hormone replacement, and do not waste the exquisiteness of this time. Those symptoms are still wise. The other thing I'll tell you that, my core tenets are: body is wise, symptoms are teachers, no exceptions, and you are the medicine. So on
Ooh, I
those
love it.
principles, you I remind women that, because the only conversation you can have, generally you can have about perimenopause is in a medical setting, but the medical setting is pathologizing a very natural cycle, and that's helpful, for some things, but I say that we are missing our culture pretty much kind of, I don't know, erase this out of this deep knowing from our ancestors that women used to usher each other along, right, to be supportive as there was transitions. Because here's the thing: we don't have an elder society here in the U.S., and I would be curious about why that's happened. Like, why would we have barely any wise elders? We have a lot of older people trying to be young. That's not wise. It's
It's
fine to
very true.
stay as youthful as you want. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the demonization of getting old in our culture is rampant. Part of the
Mm,
fear around perimenopause, I believe, is this maybe not conscious fear, but this kind of underlying fear of like death and dying. So I've got a lot of training in that. But I think, what I heard a colleague say is like perimenopause is the reminder that here comes a new time in your life that you're preparing, if you're up for it, elderhood. And it's not gonna happen overnight. Menopause, perimenopause is actually a long journey.
yeah.
But like I said in the beginning, don't you think that there's some other ways to consider this time in your life in a way that's actually going to help with the symptoms? Yes, you can do HRT or not, but you can actually use the symptoms as pointers. And that's actually what I help guide people to. It's like, how can you
Mm,
use the flashes of heat and the sweating and all that and the insomnia, like the kind of typical, but I bet you have a couple nuanced symptoms for you that actually, what if this is preparing you? Because women, as we age, we literally, if you've gained weight and you're like, I'm not having it, I get it. But I want you to look at it as one way to look at it is like you're actually taking up space where you haven't. You're
ooh.
you're taking up space, and we need powerful women that are standing not only for their health and well-being, but their families, their communities. We need women leaders as we age, not freaked out about the gray hairs and I get it. If you look at my hair, you can plainly see if you
Which is gorgeous, by the way.
thank you, but it's pretty much all white, and I just turned 56 and I don't love all the changes. That's not what loving it is actually. If you can get to that, I'm honestly not there, but I know what's happening to me is wise. And so it allows me to not be in opposition with it, which is
Mm,
actually what keeps the symptoms loud and, you know, interrupting you through the day. There is this, I won't lie. It's a hard time. But you know what? You know, if you think about it, Kat, if we had communities built where you could come together and, um, we want to commiserate, right? But we don't want to make that like, we want to move past that, right? But
hmm.
like, what is the wisdom? And wouldn't it be nice to have older women and younger women, even women in their 20s, to know that this is coming? But it's actually part of the design of being a conscious, powerful woman in the world. Again, you don't have to love it, but how are you going to get out of it? I mean, you could take HRT to the dosage where you don't are having less and less symptoms, but I would say that's like a missed opportunity for you to become who you really are again without the hormones running the show.
Ooh, this is really interesting. And now, like, my brain is buzzing, and I'm going to be thinking about this the rest of the afternoon now. Okay. So, thank you for that,
You're
Mary.
welcome.
As someone who has just recognized that she is going through perimenopause, I'm like, ah, great. Now I got to rethink all of it. No, I'm just kidding. But I think it's beautiful. And, when I think about it as well, you were talking about, how we have this society where like getting old is a problem. I also
Mhm.
think about the division that it's also causing in like all these generations. I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of everybody being called some type of generation, right? Gen Z and
Me neither.
millennials. And to
Yeah, I
me,
do
I
too.
just feel like that's just
Very reductive, right?
yeah, it's a very real way for people to be able to like label someone and then be like, oh, you're one of those. Okay, I'm not going to listen to you. Like you already find yourself putting people in buckets. And that's the worst thing that we can do. I mean, there's already enough things in our society that have have its own stereotypes or have been stigmatized in a different way. Domestic violence for an issue, that I speak a lot on. Like we already have these misconceptions that people are trying to change, but what are we doing instead of learning and re-educating ourselves about the reality and the actualness of these things? We have turned and been like, oh, we're just going to go ahead and label you if you were born from this year to this year, because that means you didn't deal with what I dealt with, so that means you can't possibly understand. And what's really funny is my husband and I have actually had this conversation because he's 13 years older than me. And so a lot of times he's like, well, you don't remember. And I'm like, I was actually raised kind of in your generation, even though technically I'm a millennial. I'm like, I know most of the stuff that you're talking about. And it kind of baffles him. So I'm like, you have to think about that. Every time that somebody gets labeled, there's a really good possibility they don't even really fit in whatever that stereotype in that we as a society has created. And it is so
That's,
frustrating to
I'm
me.
so glad you brought that up because it comes back to this. It's one of the 12 skills I teach. And so it goes like this.
Oh,
It's
okay.
totally out of order. So this is for everybody to think about. So like when you're upset, like so you're in the conversation with your husband and you're noticing reactivity, which I'm calling upset, doesn't mean angry. It just means you're
Mm,
having a bit of a reaction to what you're hearing. There's always two things happening when you're with someone, or you're reading something, or you're listening to something. There's the fact of, I'm hearing the sound of my beloved's voice coming through my ears, and I'm hearing like I'm in a conversation, right? That's what's actually
mhm,
happening. That's it. Okay, so is there anything to get upset about that, right? No, but it's the story that we make up about what we're hearing, seeing, or whatever that
mm.
generates the symptoms. Okay, so
Yes.
when your point to when we put people in boxes, we are no longer listening to their human experience, which is, I
Mm,
say, huge missing in our society right now for everybody. There are actually no exceptions here. So the practice is to, first of all, that's the first practice when people get to this skill, because it's further down the list. There's a bunch of other things I have people do first, but to warm up, to notice, oh, I'm upset because I'm attaching a certain narrative, a certain story, a certain label to it. And um and that's actually the story. It's not good or bad. It's not about good or bad story, but just to notice that you're doing it is the practice. Because then
mm,
you're like, oh, if I'm calling somebody a millennial or whatever, and that's like, then I wonder what I mean by millennial. Like, why would that generate some tension? Okay, you're like, so what? Who cares? Okay. But people come to me saying, Mary, I have insomnia, I have headaches and jaw pain or whatever. It's the stories. And my Qigong, I was just listening to a podcast about this. They said it in a different way, but it's more of like our frame of reference, our frame of things is the underpinnings of disease. And it's like that's not a Western thought at all. That sounds, I don't know how that sounds out there, but I will tell you it's more nuanced than that. But like the stories, if they generate tension in your body, if we just put a blood pressure thing cuff to you, your thought about, your husband or him about you, that creates some internal biochemistry that we can measure, that's, elevating your blood pressure. And what do we know about elevated blood pressure? It's a killer. So
mm,
all I'm saying is you don't get upset one time a day, right? You get upset more than one time a day. So I'm wondering about, people's accumulation point with all the things they get upset about and how that's affecting their health and well-being. So it doesn't mean you bypass and paint like a rosy rainbow and unicorn picture. No, no, we can't do that. Don't do that. Don't, I'm not saying that. What I am
yeah.
saying, the very first step is just to notice the story you're creating. Okay. So if you feel that in your body, because we don't have a, blood pressure cuff, but I guess if you did, you'd go check for data. But you don't need that because you can feel, I bet yourself, rising. Like there is some internal something happening
Mm-hmm.
in your body. And some people have said, yeah, I feel like this wave of energy coming up when I get, ups, angry, right? They said angry, in this case is what I'm feeling. And anger, if we pull that apart, what's that felt sensation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the story is generating the symptoms. Oh, so, but like we're storytellers, we're humans. We are storytellers. Again, back to it. Just noticing that you're telling the story. And then once you get some practice with that, it's like, well, okay. But then there's probably 10 other stories you could tell about the system because you've got to decide if raising your own blood pressure, and you wouldn't be doing it in isolation because if your blood pressure is raised, you're spreading it around, you're infecting everybody else, and you're raising their blood pressure. But what I'm saying is, like, if you can observe that you have some say so over your symptoms just based on observing the stories you're telling, you have the same power to decrease your own blood pressure. And this is a little nuance. It's like, but I know people can do this right away. And this is why what I teach, my wisdom within method, is so effective because it actually works very fast. And what the practice is the practice. It's just practicing, 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 right? And so you can lower your own blood pressure as soon as you catch some that rising feeling, and that's the choice point. You can keep letting your
Mm-hmm.
blood boil, or you can go, you know what? This is not worth more tension in my body, more years cut off of my life because I keep allow me creating a story that no one pointed out that I was creating. But now that I know, I now can choose because now I have some awareness. And so, but like I said, it's choosing a story. It's like, well, it could be just, you know what? He has his opinion, I have mine. And actually, I can leave it at that. And that's it. And that's some people can go there, right? And some people can go, well, what's a nice thing about, like, what's a beautiful thing about millennials? Why don't you focus on that story? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Right. So you go to the story that you're not making a huge leap. You're making a tiny adjustment, and you got to decide, are you committed to your upset more than you are designing peace and ease in your body? That's really important too, because it's fine either way. But if most people that I work with, they're like, I'm so tired of feeling exhausted or headachy or whatever,
Yeah.
back pain, or I have this chronic pain condition. Well, let's talk about what's your worldview? That is directly related, in my experience, to how they're feeling in their body. So they have some say so, right? And depending
Mm-hmm.
on how long you've had your thing, it takes a little bit longer to unpack. But you add that with Qigong or Chinese medicine, and people can actually feel relief quite quite quickly. Now the door might shut again because you're more practiced reacting and reacting, right? Because
Yeah.
no one told you could interrupt it. But that's what I teach. I teach interruption and choice, right? Because you don't have to, or you never have to do anything I tell you.
Yeah.
And
Well, and
I invite,
choices, that's such a
yeah,
good choice is such a big one that and myself in particular as well, like I didn't realize that I had a choice in a lot of
yeah,
things that I was doing in my life, and that not to say that there aren't situations where you feel like you absolutely do not have a choice, that
sure.
happens. And when you get to a point of knowing that you want to do different or what is currently going on is not working for you, that is then when you decide to make the choice of, okay, so I can either continue doing this because I at least know what's going to irritate me, or I can decide to work towards something different and see if it's better because I'm tired of being like this. And that was a choice that I
Yeah,
had to make
yeah.
when I finally decided to start healing from my abusive relationship. And I did that not only for me, but for my kids as well. My oldest one was 15 when I first
Mm-hmm.
started this, and I was realizing that he was a direct mirror of a lot of the things that I was doing. Well, how am I
Mm-hmm.
supposed to expect him to be better and tell him don't yell and don't get upset and da 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 if I'm the one that's sitting there doing it right in front of him? I'm like, well, that's a hypocrite if I've ever seen one. So, but it was that reflection of realizing, like, okay, in order to teach my kids to do different, if anybody has not heard this before, monkey does as they see, not as what you say, right? I know I screwed that up, but
Hmm.
kids do not do what you tell them. They do exactly
Mm-mm.
what it is that they are seeing you do.
And they're
Okay.
always
And
watching, right? They're always watching
always,
you.
even as teenagers. And I thought that was really
Yes.
interesting.
And they do listen to you. I found that
They
because we have a couple
do. They
teenagers, but
do.
they may not look like
They don't, yeah,
they are,
definitely
but they
don't look
are.
like it. They don't, yeah. But the more that you can talk and things like that and be more open and real with them, which was a really interesting aspect for me to incorporate because I was so used to being like, but I am the mom and I have to make it right so that they can see me in this light. And what I realized was I was creating this false light and this hope of who they thought they needed to be. And then when they failed at something, they're like, well, but she didn't. So it was
Right.
starting to open up and have those conversations. But that was a really hard choice for me to be vulnerable with my kids and to start having these kinds of conversations and to openly talk about where I felt like I had failed them or had failed in
Yeah.
life. But it
And thank
created
you.
such
Yeah,
amazing
thank you for doing that.
conversations.
That's also no small matter because that interrupts the cycle of what you were trying to break, right? And so you being vulnerable and courageous is modeled as you do the interruption, right?
Yeah.
And that's great. That's so great, Kat.
Thank you. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
like you said, it's no small feat. But I will say that I would never take it back. Like I love where I sit, and I say that to a lot of people. Like I know what it's like to be in a very dark place, in a very dark corner of feeling like the world is completely against you and it's never
Yep.
going to stop. But I've also been able to see the other side, which I chose to create because I chose to work on things within me. And boy, let me tell you, while it is a lot of work, and sometimes I'm like, can we please just stop?
Can we stop? Yep. We
I
done
love
yet?
every bit of it. Can I
Yep.
have a break? I need like 2 weeks off.
Yep.
But it really is one of the best places I have ever been. And it's so funny to me to see how I handle certain situations now. And I'm like, boy, if that had been 10 years ago, ooh, I would have
Hmm.
lost my lid. Like the whole world would have fell apart. Like you have so much more
So
space.
yeah, life opportunities actually help you build the capacity to be able to handle, I say it, more of life. And so
Hmm.
you like looking at the challenges that everyone is currently going through, unique to you or your experience of it. This experience, however daunting, is, and I'm thinking it's certainly something specific in my life too, is offering you to rise to the occasion and to be with it, right? And the the one of the best ways, if you're resisting, is you will feel it in your body. And oftentimes people are like, oh, can you help? I'm exhausted. I need more rest. And I'm like, oftentimes, not everybody, but exhaustion actually doesn't mean you need more rest. It means something's misaligned. You're fighting against something that doesn't agree with who you are as a person in the world.
Hmm.
So that once you correct that, then like I used to be like tell the story like, oh, love my naps, right? Nap, and I felt legitimately tired. Like, we're not gaslighting anybody here. It's like I'm tired. And I'm like, great. And so my mentor would be like, great, but just let me like what's going, like just tell me about it. I'm like, well, I'm tired. I'm on Zoom all the time. I'm teaching Qigong. I'm seeing clients. I'm blah blah. And she's like, okay. She's like, okay, phenomena only. You looking through a screen, let's call it a light box, sitting there talking or teaching Qigong, which opens, is exhausting. And when she put it like that, I laughed actually because I felt I'm busted. No. What I realized in that moment, I'm very coachable, it was like, you know what? You know what's exhausting is all the machinations in my head about showing up. Oh, I got to do this and I got to do that, right? I was creating the mental weight because you can't separate what you think from what you feel in your body. Then you can't. It's not possible, right? So once she pointed out, it's like, oh, I'm resisting showing up to calls. I don't know, maybe I'm like vain and I'm like, my hair don't look good today, and now I gotta put on, like, it felt like there was a lot of prep work, and then they're trying to look good and all that stuff. and that's, can feel heavy. And so
Hmm.
once I'm like, oh, it's not sitting here looking through a light box, right? I mean, are you expending any energy, much energy, right? You're just being yourself, Kat. I'm being myself. I'm not
Yeah.
exhausted at all. So anyway, that pretty much erased naps. Now, am I anti-nap? No, but now I take them only for the pure joy of it, not because I've got to. That's a completely different paradigm. And I want
Ooh.
people to take naps and rest for the joy of it, not because they have to, right? And
Hmm.
that's different.
Yeah,
No,
very
there's no
different.
nap shaming here.
No nap shaming. No nap shaming
Nope.
at all. Oh my goodness. All right, Mary, I could talk to you all day about this
This has
because
been
I feel like
fun.
there's
Thank
so many
you.
different directions that we could go. So, before we move into how people can find you, is there anything you
Yeah.
would like to leave the audience with?
Well, I mean, to recap, I mean, the skill called phenomena is just realizing what is the story I'm making. Like, what are the facts? And usually facts don't create any reactivity, and it's usually the story. And so I would just have everybody just check, you know, what story am I telling about? Again, it's not a bad thing. It's very human. There's no
Hmm.
judgment in anything that I teach. It's just noticing, do I have any say so in the symptoms that I'm feeling? And my thing is like, well, let's find out, because maybe you don't, right? Maybe you're the one person I'm going to talk to where you don't have any say so. But my job is to really just see if can you and I together create some movement in where you didn't think it was possible. And if we can, ooh, then you've got way more say so about life. And wouldn't be what would be possible if that was open and expanded. So just to remind you again that your body's wise, your symptoms are teachers, and yeah, I just think that you know everybody's unique in all the world, and you have some purpose. It doesn't have to be a grand purpose in life. Maybe you're that person, you want to be more calm and peaceful for your family or for your kids, right? And maybe you want to be that for a community organization or the business that you're running, and you're like, and so all of that is possible. And the way I do it though is just checking in with your body's symptoms and using them as guides for you rather than just to cover them up.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, so wonderful. Oh, Mary, you are amazing. I can't thank you enough. Please,
Thank you.
before we go, then tell everybody, how can they find you? How can they
Yeah.
connect with you? How can they be in
Yes.
your world?
Well, yes, you can find me at howweheal.info. Although I just realized I don't have that link up there, but I will do that soon after this call. But I have a new service. It's totally free right now. It's called a wellness insight call. So if you are dealing with symptoms and are curious about anything that we discussed, um, hop on, book a call with me. You'll share with me about what's going on. You don't have to be a person in midlife at all, but if you are, I mean, certainly that's kind of like the area I'm most excited about. But it could be for anybody dealing with something. You and let me guide you through some recommendations. Whether I have a host of programs that are online, maybe one of them fits with you. Let's find out. And if not, I actually might know of something else that would be of help to you. Because my commitment in the world is that you find peace and ease inside your life, that you have more choice than you think you do. And this call is for that. So it's a wellness insight call. I shared the link with you. I'll also get it on my website. But yeah, please use it. Book a call. You can be anywhere in the world. Would love to help you, guide you, share a little bit more about some of my programs. And then, yeah, if we work together, great. Would love that.
Yay! Oh, thank you so
Yay!
much. Of course, we'll
Thank
make sure
you.
we have all that information in the show notes for you guys. We'll make it super easy for you to be able to find Mary and be in her world. She is absolutely amazing. And Mary, again, I cannot thank you enough for being a part of the podcast today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Kat. It's been
You
wonderful.
are so welcome. To everybody else out there, I know there was a lot of information. However, I definitely feel like we are in a shifting time where you are now starting to see and really deciding, do we want to continue with the way society is going, or do I choose that I want to do something different? We do have so many tools and modalities and things that can help us. What are you going to choose? Do you choose the easy road for a quick fix, or are you willing to put in the work that it does take so that your life ends up being better long after those meds that everybody is kind of wanting to do? Again, like I said, nothing against medicines. I am all for when we need a doctor and stuff, but I definitely think that we are getting to a time where it's time to start thinking about us first and trusting our bodies and what we feel and knowing that we can advocate in that way versus waiting for somebody else to just give us all the answers about ourselves. We ultimately do know what we are feeling. It just means we have to make the space for it and the presence for it. So until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Catch you next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Chat with Kat today, where real stories meet real solutions. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, and share this with someone who may also need to hear this as well. Let's also keep the conversation going. Follow me on socials at The Lotus Effect, connect with our incredible guests, and remember, you are never alone. Your story matters, and you have the ability and the power to rewrite it. You always have a choice. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep showing up as the incredible, unstoppable